Dear students, yesterday we started Natural Vegetation of India. Uh, two, three types of vegetation we completed: tropical evergreen forest, tropical deciduous forest, and tropical desert forest. Now let us listen. Littoral forest or swampy forest. Littoral forest or swampy forest. These forests occur mainly in and around the deltas, estuaries, and creek prone to tidal influence, and that's why it is also known as swampy forest. Okay, littoral forest, it occur mainly the in and around areas of delta, estuaries, and creek ponds. That means the area where the tidal influence occurring. The area where the tidal influence occurring area only mainly that littoral forest occur. That's why these littoral forests were also called swampy forest or mangrove forest or tidal forest. Four names are there: littoral forest, it is also known as swampy forest or tidal forest or mangrove forest. Mainly the place uh, it is mainly occur in and around the deltas, estuaries. Estuaries means what? Mouth of the large river where the tidal effect occurring, affected by the tides. Mouth of the large rivers where it affected by the tides. That area only we call estuaries. Estuaries and creek pond to tide influx. All this area we can see littoral forest or swampy forest. These occur especially in coastal lines confined to deltas of Ganga, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, like that. Deltas only we can see this type of forest. One of the special feature of this forest, it can survive both in fresh water as well as in salt water. This forest can survive both in salt water as well as in fresh water. Then Sundari tree, that is the common tree that we can find out in this area. Because of this reason, this forest were also named Sundarbans. The most important tree is Sundari tree. So because of this common tree Sundari, these forests are also called Sundarbans. It provides hard and durable timber, and that is mainly used for constructive purpose, building purpose, making boards and all. Okay, the Sundari trees, that is very useful tree, hard and durable timber, and that is used for construction purpose, building purposes, as well as making boards. The most important other species, Sundari and Agar, Nipa, pines, canes, palms, hindle, these are the most important species. Okay, the most important species formed this forest are Sundari, pines, canes, palms, hindle, these are the most important species. Now, littoral forest, that is also called swampy forest or tidal forest or mangrove forest. Especially these occur in and around deltas, estuaries and creek prone area. That means area where the tidal influence are there. Okay, so these forests, especially coastal areas or the deltas of Ganga, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. One of the special feature, it can survive both in fresh water as well as salty water. And the Sundari tree is the common tree that found here. So because of that, this forest in West Bengal and all called Sundarban forest. And this tree is very useful, hard and durable timber, which is used for constructive purpose, for building purpose, as well as making boats. Okay. Now next, mountain vegetation. Mountain vegetation means high altitude area. The vegetation in a high altitude area. Himalaya is a natural cover of vegetation ranging from some subtropical forest to subarctic region. So in this high altitude area, climatic condition will be changed and the direction of slope also different. So according to the direction of slope, according to the altitude, there is little bit difference in a vegetation also. In the Himalayas region, northern slopes usually receive the sun rays only few hours during the day, that also very low angle. At the same time, southern slopes receive comparatively vertical rays during middle of the day. So because of this reason, northern slopes area get very less vegetation. You can see very less vegetation. At the same time, southern slopes vegetation is higher up to altitude. Southern slope vegetation is up to higher altitude on the southern slopes than the northern slopes. That is mainly because northern slopes usually receive sun rays only for few hours during the day, that also at low angle. The southern slopes receive comparatively vertical rays during the middle of the day. Southern slopes, the sun rays receive vertically during the middle of the day. So that is why southern slopes being warmer and full areas greater evapotranspiration will be there at all. That's why southern slope vegetation is up to higher altitude. Southern slope vegetation is up to higher altitude than the northern slope. The altitude is the most important factor controlling the type of vegetation. Okay. In mountainous region, vegetation in the foothill zone is same to the found in neighboring plains also. Tropical deciduous forest are therefore natural vegetation of foothill zone. Sal is one of the most important tree growing this area, especially central and eastern parts of Himalayas and all. Sal tree is the common tree. Above the tropical deciduous forest is found in subtropical hill vegetation also. In these zones are found the forest of evergreen oaks, chestnuts, pine trees. Between the altitude of 1600 meter and 3300 meter lies the belt of coniferous forest such as blue pine, silver fir, cedar, deodar, and all we can see at all. Okay. The upper limit of the alpine vegetation is the permanent snow line above which no plants grow. Upper part of the alpine vegetation, it is a snow covering area. There we cannot see any plants. The wood of oak is hard and tough, used for very ancient time onwards. Construction purpose it is useful as making pillars, tools, wagons, vessels, wine cask. It is also firewood or charcoal manufacture. Pines are the most commercially important tree species here, valid for the timber, wood pulp, tar and the other uses, ornamental purpose also. Then silver fir is also soft but not very strong, that is used for paper making, packing crates and other cheap construction work. The next deodar is also great demand in building material because of its durability, rot resistant character and fine close grain, which is capable of taking high polish. Its historical time used to construct religious temples as landscape around temples is well recorded. In India during British colonial period, deodar wood was used extensively for construction of barracks, public buildings, bridges, canals and railways. Okay, so mountain vegetation, mainly the mountain area, high elevated area, seeing vegetation only called mountain vegetation. That makes Himalayas climatic condition here change with altitude and the direction of slope in relation to sun. So in the Himalaya region and northern slopes usually receive the sun rays only few hours during the day at low angle, but at the same time southern slopes vertical rays during middle of the day. As a result, southern slopes being warmer and fall the area of greater evapotranspiration. So that's why vegetation is up to higher altitude on southern slopes than northern slopes. Okay, number of valuable trees are there: evergreen, oak tree, chestnuts, deodar trees, and pine trees, blue pine, silver fir, cedar, deodar. These and all useful for construction purpose. Pillars, tools, wagon making, vessels making, and packing, craters, building material like the different way it is used. Okay. Now, deforestation. We already studied what is meant by deforestation. Means what? Clearing of forest and other vegetation for agriculture purpose or commercial housing purpose. That is called what? Deforestation. Cutting of forest or cutting and clearing forest and other vegetation for agriculture or commercial or housing purpose is called deforestation. Change. Early 19th century, the British thought forests were unproductive. So forests were considered to be wilderness that had to be brought under cultivation so that the land could yield agriculture products and revenue and enhance the income of British. Accordingly, they encouraged the production of commercial crops like jute, sugar, cotton, and demand of these crops also increased 19th century. So automatically they started to clear the forest area and use that area for cultivation purpose. Now, need for conservation now. Because of this reason, forest cover in India is shrinking. Why forest cover in India is shrinking? Because of the demand of forest products and also urbanization, industrialization, and increase in population. Because of all these reasons, forest cover in India is shrinking. Why forest cover in India is shrinking? Demand of forest products and for cultivation purpose, people are clearing the forest area. Then deforestation is taking place continuously. Overgrazing, urbanization and industrialization, increase in population. Because of all these reasons, forest cover in India is shrinking. Now, need for conservation of forest. You know already forest is a complex ecosystem which is mainly composed of trees, shrubs and a closed canopy. Forest is a complex ecosystem which is mainly composed of trees, shrubs and a closed canopy. So it is also a storehouse of large variety of life such as plants, animals, mammals, birds, insects and reptiles, and abandoned microorganisms like fungi, and that also doing lot of work of decomposing that organic matter, then thereby is increasing the fertility of the soil. So forests are one of the most important component of ecological balance. Why we have to conserve forest? You know already, forest is a complex ecosystem mainly composed of trees, shrubs and closed canopy, and the forests are the storehouse of houses of large variety of life forms such as plants, mammals, birds, insects and reptiles, and abundant microorganisms such as fungi. These also doing lot of work decomposing the dead organic matter, thereby make to increase the soil fertility. So because of all these reasons, forests are one of the most important component of ecological balance. Now see what are the worries why we have to protect forest. First one, prevention and control of soil erosion. Forest played a significant role. Forests play a significant role in the prevention and control of soil erosion by water and wind. Deforestation leads to increased runoff rainwater and its diminished seepage and storage in soil. So the structure of soil suffer, the runoff increases and loosens the soil, which is carried away to other regions. Thus the fertility of soil will be decreasing. It becomes barren and unproductive. So the reckless destruction of the forest in Shivalik Hills, Western Ghats, Chota Nagpur Plateau and in other Deccan tableland and all led to the serious problem of soil erosion. So first one, prevention and control of soil erosion. We have to preserve forest to prevent and control of soil erosion at all. Secondly, flood control. Roots of trees absorb much of the rainwater and use it slowly during dry season. Trees also regulate flow of water and help in controlling the floods. It will be trees' roots absorb much of rainwater and use it slowly during dry season and regulate the flow of water and help the controlling flood source. Thirdly, check on spread of deserts. Sand particles are blown away by strong winds in the desert and are carried over long distance. Thus result what a spread of deserts. So the trees are there means root of these trees and plants bind the sand particles and do not permit their easy transportation by wind. The forest also add humidity to the atmosphere and further help in checking the spread of a desert. Okay, check on spread of desert sand particles are blown away by strong winds in the desert are carried over the long distance, and that led to the origin of water deserts. So the trees are there means root of these trees or plants bind the sand particle and do not allow their easy transportation by wind. The forests also add humidity to the atmosphere and further help in checking the spread of the desert. Then increase of soil fertility. The fallen leaves of trees add humus to soil after their decomposition. Thus, forests help in increasing the fertility of soil. Next, effect on climate. Forests play an important role in regulating the earth temperature and weather pattern by storing large quantity of carbon and water. This regulatory function has profound effect on both local and global climate. Okay. Fifth point, effect on climate. Forests play an important role in regulating atmosphere temperature and weather pattern by storing large quantities of carbon and water. This way, regulatory function has a profound effect on both local and global climate. Locally, trees, we know already, locally trees provide shade, which turns to lower summer temperature and prevent the soil from drying out, and also reduce heat loss from ground in winter and reduce storm damage by providing shelter from wind. So it regulates global carbon cycle, having profound effect on climate. They have a direct impact on the climate by reducing heat in summer and cold in winter. They also influence the amount of rainfall by lowering the temperature of moisture laden winds and increase the relative humidity of air through the process of transportation. Through the process of transpiration. They also reduce the surface velocity of wind and retard the process of evaporation at all. Okay. Then, vital role in country's economy. Forests are a major natural resource of an economy. Grazing activity in the forest provide occupation to millions of people. Nextly, firewood and charcoal is a cheap source of fuel in rural areas. Then timber is a major produce and used for furniture making, doors, windows and even houses. Railway is also used sleepers for new construction and for maintenance of existing railway lines. And lot of timber for coaches. Industries are used resin, lac, wood pulp for paper making, artificial cloth, matchbox, plywood. Thus, for country's economy, this forest played a vital role in Europe. Great demand. India's Turkey is in great demand in European countries due to its timber and furniture making qualities. Rosewood is heavy wood, but it is also demanded in Europe because of its coarse-grained texture. We export sandalwood, teak and rosewood worth about nearly 60 million hectares. So, economically also forest products playing a valuable role. Now, various measures for the conservation of forest. Forest conservation does not mean the denial of use, but rather the proper use without causing any adverse effect on our economy or environment. Okay. Now, what are the measures that are taken to conserve the forest? First thing, a Ministry of Environment and Forest. Okay, the Ministry of Environment and Forest is the nodal agency in the administrative structure of central government. It is mainly for planning, promotion, coordination and overseeing the implementation of environmental and forestry program. The ministry is also a nodal agency in the country for United Nations Environment Program at all. The main activities undertaken by this Ministry of Environment and Forest consist of conservation and survey of flora, fauna, forest, wildlife, prevention and control of pollution, afforestation and regeneration of degraded areas and protection of environment in the framework of legislations. So, there is a Ministry of Environment and Forest. Their main work is water conservation of conservation and survey of flora and fauna, forest and wildlife, prevention and control of pollution, afforestation and regeneration of degraded areas, and protection of environment in the framework of legislations. Then, secondly, forest policy. India is one of the few countries which has forest policy since 1894. It was revised in 1952 and again in 1988. Main task of this forest policy of 1988 is protection, conservation and development of forest. So, our country is one of the India is one of the few countries which has forest policy since 1894. It was revised in 1952, again 1988. So the main task of the forest policy of 1988 is protection, conservation and development of forest. The program of preserving and protecting the forest is called Program of Forest Conservation. Program of preserving, protecting the forest is known as Program of Forest Conservation. Under this scheme, forest conservation, certain measures are taken. First thing, maintenance of environment stability through preservation and restoration of ecological balance. Next, conservation of natural heritage. Thirdly, check on soil erosion and denudation in river areas, lakes, reservoirs, etc. Check on extension of sand dunes in desert area of Rajasthan along the coastal tracts. In olden days, for protecting the forest, there is a movement called Chipko movement. Chipko means literally what? Stick or embrace. So that is a woman movement that started in Uttarakhand region, which acted to prevent the cutting of trees and reclaim their traditional forest rights that were threatened by the contractors. Ladies only started that movement. They embraced the trees and stood against cutting forest at all. That is mainly under the leadership of Sundar Lal Bahuguna, Chipko movement. Apart from that, Vana Mahotsava program also encouraged the afforestation and reforestation. Under the provisions of Forest Act of 1980, prior approval of central government is required for the division of forest land and non-forest land at all. Then thirdly, social forestry. Social forestry means for the management and protection of forest as well as afforestation of barren lands aimed at helping in environmental, social and rural development as against the traditional object of securing revenue. Okay, social forestry means what? The management and protection of the forest as well as afforestation of barren lands aimed at helping in environmental, social and rural development as against the traditional objective of securing revenue. Not for securing revenue, especially for what? Protection of forest as well as afforestation of barren land for helping the environment. Not for mainly for revenue purpose, for helping the environment, afforestation mainly for helping the environment and social and rural development, not for securing revenue at all. So it is described as forestry for the people, by the people and for the people, of the people, by the people and for the people. The main thrust of social forestry is to reduce the pressure on traditional forest areas by developing plantation of wildwood, fodder and grasses. Social forestry has become very popular mainly during last 3 decades. Then fourth one, agriculture, forest and forestry. That means agroforestry. Agroforestry means what? A collective name for land use system involving trees combined with crops on same unit of land. Agroforestry means a collective name for land use system involving trees combined with crops on same unit of land. Indian government is also encouraging this agroforestry, mainly encouraging for what purpose? To meet the demand of fuel, fodder and timber for increasing population. Why government is encouraging agroforestry? Firstly, to meet the demand of fuel, fodder and timber for increasing population. Secondly, reduce the biotic pressure on existing forest. Thirdly, to obtain maximum output in terms of yield from same piece of land. Then to develop the wasteland and reduce the environmental pollution by planting and reduce the soil erosion. So why government encourage agroforestry? Mainly, first thing, to meet the demand of fuel, fodder and timber for increasing population. Secondly, reduce the biotic pressure on existing forest. Thirdly, obtain maximum output in terms of yield from the same piece of land. Then, to develop the wasteland and change into an agricultural land. Reduce the environmental pollution by planting trees and to reduce soil erosion. Then apart from that, joint forest management. Joint forest management. In 1990, the government issued a guideline to involve the village community in the development and protection of degraded forest. What is this joint forest management? That is a concept of preserving and developing forest by involving local people. Joint forest management means it is a concept of preserving and developing forest by involving local people. So in 1990, government issued guidelines to involve the village communities in the development and protection of degraded forest. Under the scheme, usually village committee known as forest protection committee and the forest department enter into an agreement, and accordingly villages agree to assist in the safeguarding of forest resources through protection from fire, grazing and illegal harvesting, in exchange for which they receive non-timber forest products and share of the revenue from sale of timber products. The concept of joint forest management was accordingly initiated. So this joint forest management was pursued vigorously, and as a result now been adopted in all the 29 states. Okay, so the geography lesson, natural vegetation, completed. Okay, once again just points. Measures taken by the government, the Ministry of Environment and Forest policy, and thirdly social forestry, fourthly agriculture and forestry, that means agroforestry, then last one joint forest management. Okay, now finished our natural vegetation lesson. Thank you.